The pick is in.
The number 11 pick, the Memphis Grizzlies, get it. And they make a selection in the 2025 NBA draft of Cedric Coward. I'm Tenitra, Batiste, and I'm joined now by host of Locked On Grizzlies, Joe Mullinax, and the Grizzlies select the forward out of Washington State. Joe, the Grizzlies get Cedric Coward by way of rights from the Portland Trail Blazers. Was this the right move for Memphis?
Absolutely. There were two guys in this draft that I would have wanted to see Memphis trade up for. Because, again, this is a Grizzlies team, despite what national media folks, that's why you got to trust Locked On Grizzlies, your team, each and every single day, the local experts. The Grizzlies were never throwing in the towel, tanking, trading Joe Morant. It's a retool moving on from Desmond Bane and that bigger contract. And there were two guys that I was most interested in terms of trading up, Colin Murray-Boyles and Cedric Coward. Murray-Boyles obviously goes to the Raptors at 9. That meant that it was likely that the Spurs or the Thunder were going to take this guy, and the Grizzlies beat him to the punch, and I'm more than happy that they did so. He checks so many boxes for this Grizzlies team. A 6'6" tall, 7'2" wingspan player. He has a lot of those types of qualities that Memphis has to start thinking about replacing, at least in the aggregate, when it comes to Desmond Bane.
Yeah, and when you kind of look at him, you talked a little bit about what you like about Coward. When you see sort of that, I'm going to go with ceiling, Joe, but you might think maybe he has a higher floor. Is it for you the higher floor or the higher ceiling? Let me start there.
I think it's a guy that can have both, to be honest with you. I don't want to put a J-Dub comp on him because I don't think their games are exactly the same. But in terms of a player that is going to be able to come in and help this Grizzlies team, he played a lot of basketball. And Memphis has said time and again that they are looking for players that are self-made, that are driven. Doesn't get much more self-made and driven than going from Division III basketball to the number 9 pick in the NBA draft in essentially a span of 4 years. This guy has so much going for him in terms of his ability and a really impressive scorer. And one of the most important things to point out is if you want to have the one thing that maybe makes you nervous is the fact that he wasn't a better defender in college, despite the physical intangibles that he has. But that isn't connected to what an NBA scheme is. That isn't connected to what this young man can do in a system that's a little bit different than what his college experience was. He has the physical intangibles. You trust Grizzlies coach Tuomas Isalo and his staff to bring out the skills and to bring out all of that potential, building on top of the type of offensive player in particular that he already is. This is a huge win for the Grizzlies.
Yeah. And when you look at this Grizzlies team, Joe, and this franchise, obviously they had hopes, dreams, and aspirations for doing more than getting swept out of the 2025 playoffs by one eventual NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder. But that said, where do you feel like maybe from not from day one, but somewhere early on in the season, the Grizzlies can really get something from Cedric Coward that says, hey, I can see him helping us to move the needle, to move us back into contention in the West?
This is a guy who I think can be your sixth man. He can be a starter, depending on how you view Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. I think that he can do a variety of different things. That wingspan is so important. The Grizzlies clearly see Jalen Wells, fellow Washington State wing, by the way, going back to Jalen Wells being selected in the second round of last year's draft, all the way to the first team all-rookie for the NBA this past season. Pretty impressive pick there as well. There's a couple of Cougars now hanging out in Memphis. I do think that there is something to be said for his malleability, right? Because of his experiences and all that he's been through, I think he can kind of be a Swiss Army knife that does whatever you need him to do. If you need him to be a starter next to Wells, I think he can do that for you and provide some offensive pop. If you need him to be a sixth-man scorer type off the bench that also plays starter-ish minutes, I think he's capable of doing that. And we're seeing more and more. If the Pacers and the Thunder taught us anything in the finals, you need guys on rookie-scale contracts that are able to compete at a high level. There's no reason why Cedric Coward can't be one of those guys pretty quickly for the Grizzlies. So this is a big pick. It checks a box. They needed a wing that had defensive potential and could score the ball. If this guy turns out to be Desmond Bane light, but has a longer wingspan than Desmond Bane, that's a huge win for Memphis in this spot.
Well, there is something that these Memphis Grizzlies like coming out of Pullman, Washington. Hopefully it works out for them again, because I know, Joe, that they love nothing more than to get back into that contention that we've been talking about with them over the last several years, obviously in that 8 seed this past season. And again, not wanting such an early exit. So I'm sure they're hoping that Cedric Coward can be for them on some level, bring to the table what Jalen Wells brought last season. Appreciate you, Joe.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for more on Cedric Coward, here's JJ Jackson.
And upside are some of the most common buzzwords that we hear when evaluating college prospects preparing to begin their NBA careers. Those buzzwords, potential and upside, are a perfect way to describe Washington State hooper Cedric Coward. I'm JJ Jackson, the host of Locked On Blue Devils, here to tell you why Duke basketball was so excited to have Cedric Coward commit to Duke via the transfer portal. Duke fans were able to celebrate his commitment for nearly a month before Coward made the decision to stay in the draft and forego his remaining college eligibility, never playing a game for Duke. Coward began his college journey at the Division III level before jumping to the D1 ranks at Eastern Washington. Most recently, Coward starred for the Washington State Cougars, averaging nearly 18 points a game on 40% shooting from three and nearly an 84% clip from the foul line this past season. The one big issue and question mark is that Coward only played 6 games this past season before being sidelined with a shoulder injury. Despite the injury concerns, you'd be hard-pressed to find a more mature and self-aware prospect than Coward. His athleticism is noteworthy and definitely a player to have on your radar as he transitions to the NBA. For more Duke basketball news and notes, make sure you check out Locked On Blue Devils.
And for continued coverage of Cedric Coward, check out Locked On Grizzlies on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.